Intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another print disability, which makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org.
Hello, this is Fran McNamara, and for the next hour I'll be reading from the February 13th through 19th, 2026 edition of the Buffalo Business First, right here on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. So I'm looking at the cover here. Buffalo Business First Special Section. This couple is one of 20 honorees in our annual awards highlighting the region's champions of belonging and inclusion, the Impact Awards. And there's this couple is Alexa and Wajed Endries. Very happy looking couple, middle-aged I would guess. Also on the cover there's a blurb for The List, Western New York's largest CPA firms and employee benefits providers. That's on pages 10 and 32. And then hybrid work, bank increases in-office time. M&T will bring the majority of its employees into the office 4 days instead of 3. And then under manufacturing, by the way, that will be Michelle Chiochi Adams, page 2. And manufacturing, Taylor Devices builds $2 million lab. North Tonawanda Lab will allow new products to be tested and validated. And that will be Katie Anderson on page 6. So we go to First Things First on page 2. And there's a picture of the M&T Center downtown, which ironically enough is right next to the old Gold Dome Bank downtown. And it says, M&T to increase workers' days in the office. More than 7,000 employees affected by bank's change to hybrid work policy. And this is by Michelle Chiochi Adams. M&T Bank is increasing the number of days that most of its employees will spend in the office. The bank on February 4th internally announced the move, which will require staff to work from the office a minimum of 4 days a week and increase from 3 days. The change affects more than 7,000 workers across Western New York, including 6,500 downtown, and applies to employees who don't work in a branch. Now, the bank said in a statement, here's the quote, M&T Bank is continuing the thoughtful evolution of our hybrid work approach, reflecting what we have consistently seen across our company. Our people do their best work when they are able to connect, collaborate, and innovate together. And the statement goes on to say, the change will take place gradually throughout the year based on business line and office location. Now, the bank, which employs nearly 23,000 people across its total footprint, pointed to increased collaboration and employee belonging when workers spend more time in the office. So the statement adds, being together strengthens relationships, supports mentorship and professional development, and fuels the sense of belonging that has always set M&T apart. So M&T CEO Renee Jones and other top executives have also been vocal that now this is in quotes, vibrant downtown, close quote, is a priority for the bank, but that M&T can't do it alone. Most non-branch M&T employees work remotely full-time from March 2020 until spring 2021. M&T then brought employees back to the office in phases on hybrid schedules. Nationwide, more employers are eliminating remote work completely or increasing the number of in-office days. In a recent survey of nearly 1,000 business leaders by Resume Builder, 28% of companies require employees to be in the office 5 days a week. 13% require in-office work 4 days a week, and 28% require 3 days a week. In 2025, major employers such as J.P. Morgan Chase & Company and Amazon announced they would largely end remote work and require most employees to return to the office 5 days per week. So that's the complete article on page 2, and that was written by Michelle Giochi Adams. And it's under the heading of First Things First, and that's on page 3. And next, there's a familiar face here under Power People, and there's a gentleman in front of looks like the end of a conference table, and he's in front of a world map with a very broad smile on his face. And yes, it's just who I thought it was. Buffalo Business First publishes 3 annual Power Lists: the Power 250, the Power 200 Women, and Power 100 Business Leaders of Color, featuring the top business leaders in Western New York. Each week, we'll tell you more about an executive on one of those lists. And this week, it's John Elmore, owner, law offices of John V. Elmore, PC. Now, the questions or areas of discussion will be presented by Katie Anderson. So let's get right to it. Katie writes, John Elmore always knew he wanted to be an attorney, but he started out as a state trooper. The Amherst resident grew up in Olean and graduated from Olean High School in 1975. And here's a quote from him. The first lawyers that I ever met was as a 13-year-old caddy at Bartlett Country Club. I always wanted to be a lawyer, but I didn't know I always wanted to be a lawyer, but I didn't know any African-American lawyers until I was in my early 20s, close quote. His teachers steered him toward taking civil service exams instead of law school, and he became a state trooper based in Syracuse. He served for 2 years and then met Paul Richardson, an African-American lawyer who encouraged him to get a law degree. And that's exactly what Elmore did, from the Syracuse University College of Law. In his early legal career, he was a trial lawyer in Manhattan. Being a small-town guy at heart, he didn't want to raise a family in the Big Apple, so he moved back to Buffalo. Then, after years of criminal defense work, he pivoted to personal injury to take a break from the burnout associated with criminal trials. Now he runs his own firm, the law office of John V. Elmore, PC, on the corner of Hurdle Avenue and Main Street in Buffalo. The firm has 4 other attorneys, including his daughter, Kristen Elmore Garcia, and 6 staff members. It also has an office on Main Street in Niagara Falls, and Elmore says, we're the only African-American lawyers with an office in Niagara County. Okay, now Katie's first question or area of discussion. What's your biggest work challenge? And he says, I enjoy the work so much. The biggest challenge is disciplining myself to take time off. But I love and enjoy what I do. And by the way, I should mention, in the Power 100 Business Leaders of Color rank, Mr. Elmore is 45. Okay, what were your proud career moments? And he says, the first is having my daughter Kristen join me as a law partner. She's a wonderful person, and it's a pleasure and honor to work with her every day. The second is being called to represent the Buffalo victims of the May 14th Tops Massacre and taking up the challenge of litigating against the powerful gun industry and social media companies. My office filed the first civil lawsuit. We're representing 3 families of the deceased and 1 person that was in the store that actually survived the shooting. So what's your favorite place to travel? And he says, an all-inclusive beach anywhere in the Caribbean with good weather and relaxation. So John V. Elmore, what are your hobbies? Well, I'm a certified USA boxing coach and referee. I work with the club Bomb Squad Boxing Academy on Leroy Avenue in Buffalo. I work with youth to referee and judge boxing matches in and across Western New York. I've been to the National Golden Gloves to referee amateur boxing. In 1973, I fought in the Golden Gloves and made it to the semifinals as a 16-year-old. Oh my gosh. Okay, and how are you as a boss? He says, I'm a boss that wants everyone to stay focused and get the job done. So John Elmore, what would you tell your 25-year-old self? And he says, well, I was still in law school at the time, so I tell myself that I was on the right path and that I'd have a great career. Okay, next, John Elmore, what's your favorite Buffalo restaurant? And it's Fat Cats. That's Phat, Fat Cats, Catz, on Kensington Avenue in Buffalo. And my favorite food there is a fish fry. The service there is excellent, the food is good, and the regulars that go there are friends and people I know. And finally, Katie Anderson asks Attorney Elmore, what would you do if you had a magic wand? And John Elmore responds, erase some of the negativity. I think Buffalo's a great city with some of the nicest people in the world. It's beautiful being on the lake. We have so many beautiful parks and all the different festivals throughout the year. I'd like to have people appreciate what we have here. Okay, so that's the end of page 3. That was Power People. And again, it was Attorney John Elmore, who's the owner of John V. Elmore Law Office, PC. Now on page 4, we have the business of retail, and it goes, both 4 and 5 are the business of retail. And these articles, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 of them, are all written by Leon Bunny. And again, under the heading of business of retail. Okay, the first article says development. Town gets update on Seneca Mall site plans. The group developing the former Seneca Mall site is working to move plans forward in 2026. Benchmark Streamlined LLC, which bought the property in late 2024, met with West Seneca officials February 4th to give a progress update on the site. The developer is aiming to go before the West Seneca Planning Board on April 9th to seek site plan approval. This according to West Seneca Supervisor Gary Dixon. Benchmark must also conduct an on-site dirt compression, a process that prepares soil for construction and will take 4 to 6 months. The town hopes that work will begin this March. The developer will also widen Slade Avenue and make upgrades to nearby intersections this year. Dixon adds, the plans are pretty much set. They are talking with a lot of potential tenants, and they're quite confident that once they're able to announce the main anchor tenant, that everybody will kind of fall in line pretty easily, close quote. The town and the developer have not disclosed who is the potential anchor tenant, but Benchmark's application to the town for rezoning and a special permit at the site revealed plans for a discount club and a fueling facility. The club is rumored to be another Costco location. Okay, well, that's exciting news. Okay, next we have, there's a picture here, and it's expansion. The picture is Rustic Buffalo Artisan Market is relocating its flagship store from North Tonawanda to Cheektowaga. And there's a picture of their existing store, and it's like red as a barn, but not with a barn roof. And it's got a canopy coming out, it's wheelchair access, and out in front there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of those famous buffalo that you can buy, along with one calf. And the subheading says, Cheektowaga Megastore will serve as retailer's new home base. Okay, a regional retailer is moving its headquarters and adding another store location. Rustic Buffalo Artisan Market recently announced it's relocating its headquarters and flagship store from North Tonawanda to 3801 Union Road in Cheektowaga. The retailer is also adding a 6th location. The new Cheektowaga headquarters and larger store, which the business has dubbed the Rustic Buffalo Megastore, will span about 6,000 square feet and will accommodate over 250 regional artisans, an increase over the 120 at the current North Tonawanda store. So that's doubling and then some the number of regional artisans. The Cheektowaga spot will also be home base for Rustic Buffalo's e-commerce and website operations, which the company said have more than 30,000 consumers annually and will introduce a renewed focus on locally reloved and repurposed furniture. The North Tonawanda location closed January 31st, and the Cheektowaga store will open in April 2026. The company will also add 20 more employees for its retail stores and special events street team. The business employed 18 as of July of last year. Rustic Buffalo opened its first location in November 2020. Since then, it's opened shops in East Aurora, Ellicottville, the Elmwood Village, and Williamsville. The retail now has plans for a sixth location in Lockport to open in June. The release did not reveal the address. Rustic Buffalo's growth comes at a challenging time for national and local retailers alike. In January alone, Gap, Macy's, and the Made in America store, Revolver Records, and the Screening Room announced closings. In summer 2025, owner John Perrone spoke with Business First about the retailer's strategy, which is not putting all your eggs in one basket. And he said, and this is a quote, "Every single store is completely different, and we kind of promote that so it gets people excited about the next store that they will visit." Okay, close quote. The company, continually analyzes its expensive and has a consultant look at the business operations, from garbage pickup to cleaning services every 6 months. And as John Perrone said in 2025, the key to it is always making sure that you're looking at your existing stores and seeing exactly how you can do things differently. And this is not being afraid to change, because if you're constantly looking to grow, there's always ways to do that by looking inside out. Okay. By the way, I should mention at this point, you're listening to a reading of articles and features from Buffalo Business First, and of course that's right here on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Okay, next we have an article about Elma, and this is something that we heard about before, and it was just alluded to in the article we just read. Elma, Made in America store to close sole remaining location. The Made in America store is shuttering its flagship store at 1000 West Maple Court, Elma, and is selling the building. The retailer wrote in a Facebook post, "While the physical building will be sold, the Made in America store name, mission, and legacy will remain intact. This is not a goodbye, but rather a strategic restructuring that allows us to thoughtfully plan for the future. It is our sincere intention to reopen a Made in America store at a new location and time when circumstances allow, so we can continue to serve customers who believe in American-made products and America jobs." The Elma store, the last Made in America store location, is entering a liquidation phase, and the retailer's online shop will be placed on hold until a new store location is established, the post said. It also added, "Additional details regarding liquidation, dates, sales, outstanding gift cards, and customer information will be announced soon." General Welding and Fabricking, another business started by Made in America founder Mark Andel, has owned the Elma site since 2012. General Welding closed in September after Andel's unexpected death in July. Okay. Now, that's the end of page 4, Business of Retail, but now page 5 has another article also written by Lee and Bunny, and it's about the Walden Galleria. Okay, now it says Walden Galleria, the main heading is Pyramid Gets More Time to Work Out Financing, and there's a subheading there that says, Following loan default, filing show steps owners must take to retain the mall. Okay, so Pyramid Management Group still has work to do to retain ownership of the Walden Galleria, starting with securing the financing it was supposed to close on by year-end 2025. That's among the steps the Syracuse-based real estate development company and owner of Western New York's largest mall still must take. This according to a second amended stipulation order filed in 2026 with the State Supreme Court of Erie County. Now, Pyramid isn't worried, and Pyramid says in an email statement to Business First, "We've met the terms of the latest agreement with the lender and will be closing on the new financing within the time frame in the agreement." Financing aside, the amended stipulation order contains a number of tasks that Pyramid must do to keep the mall. Okay, first bullet item. The borrower must pay $1 million to the lender on or before January 5th, 2026. And according to William Savino of Woods Avlet Gilman LLP, receiver for the mall property, this payment has been made. Second bullet. Pyramid must give a weekly status report to Savina, the court, and the lender starting January 9th. Next bullet item. The lender has agreed to accept a reduced payoff amount. The court filings did not disclose that amount. The borrower must make the payment by January 23rd or exercise an extension option that pushes the deadline to February 20th. Pyramid has extended the deadline to February 20th, according to Savino. If Pyramid does not make the final payment, the court has ordered that Spinozo Management Group will automatically be appointed as property management and real estate leasing broker for the site, effective immediately upon the lender's filing the payment default notice. So Savino told Business First, "We have every reason to believe this case is going to resolve itself later this month. This is good news for the owners, the community, and the lender." Now, the plaintiff's attorneys, Gregory Mascudi of McCarter and English LLP, did not immediately respond to Buffalo Business First's request for a comment. So that's the end of page 5. So 4 and 5, all those articles on business of retail, were written by Leon Bunny. Okay, next we move to page 6, and these are articles about hotels and hospitality, and there's, let's see, 1, 2, 3 of these, and one is one of our mystery items, but they're all written for us by Tracy Drury. Okay, the first article by Tracy Drury is Expansion. Rich Products acquires a pizza maker. Okay, Rich Products has acquired Great Kitchens Food Company, a private label pizza maker, in a move that will add 1,000 employees at 3 locations. The deal between the Buffalo-based food manufacturer and Burnwood Partners, VIII-LP, brings North America's largest manufacturer of private label take and bake pizzas, including the Uno Foods brand, under the Rich Products umbrella. Terms of the deal, which closed in January, were not disclosed. In a statement, the company said the deal brings fully topped pizzas, handheld products, and deep dish pizzas into a portfolio that already includes pizza dough and other related offerings. Rich Products is the Buffalo region's largest private company, with revenue of $5.8 billion last year in 2025. Okay. Now, some of my, I shouldn't say but some of those who've listened to me before know when I present one of these, either a quote or a number, I call it a mystery item. In this one, there's not so much mystery because quotable. And here's the quote. At Evans House, you can have a meeting planned and then after have a private happy hour in the lounge. Businesses like the privacy. Well, I guess half the mystery's gone because it's got to be somebody that has something to do with Evans House. So it says Cheryl Ann Gill, the owner of Everyday Gourmet and Zend, on her new event space in Williamsville. So again, Cheryl says, at Evans House, you can have a meeting planned and then after have a private happy hour in the lounge. Businesses like the privacy. Okay. So now that was the second article under the hotels and hospitality. And now there's a third, and this is the largest one on the page. And again, these are all by Tracy Drury. Hamister Group, 93% revenue growth follows CEO transition. And there's a gentleman here looking very satisfied, full suit on, business suit with nice matching decorative tie, not a solid, and hands in his pockets, but a big grin on his face. And it turns out that's Dan Hamister, Chairman and CEO of Hamister Group. So the subheading said, Father's death led Dan Hamister to the top earlier than expected. A leadership change can often be difficult, especially when companies transition between generations of owners. Hamister Group has bucked the trend, growing revenue by more than 90% in the 4 years since Dan Hamister took over as chairman and CEO, and an accelerated succession plan following the 2021 death of his father, Mark. When Dan took over, the company had a home health care agency, 7 senior housing complexes, and 10 hotels. That's since grown, with the addition of 5 more senior citizen living opportunities, 4 multifamily properties, and 2 more hotels, including the 104-room Homewood Suites near Philadelphia, acquired in June. Revenue during that period grew from $72 million in 2021 to $139 million in 2024, with hotels accounting for about 40% of the revenue. The company has more than 1,400 employees across several states. Hamister's strategy isn't just about continuously adding to the portfolio. In 2025, the company sold the Holiday Inn Express Clarion in Pittsburgh. It's about refocusing on which locations and industries will work best. And Dan says, it all ebbs and flows and depends where we can get the best opportunity. That's why I like being in multiple business segments. As one maybe decreases, maybe the other is right for it. If things get frothy with senior housing, then we focus on hotels. This helps us balance a little bit. About a third of Hamister Group's holdings are located in Western New York, including the Hilton Garden Inn in downtown Buffalo. On the residential and healthcare side, the company provides assisted living and memory care at Orchard Heights in Orchard Park and Brompton Heights in Williamsville, with independent senior apartments at both locations and at 10 Lafayette inside the Hilton Garden Inn. Okay, so the company provides assisted living and memory care at Orchard Heights in Orchard Park, also at Brompton Heights in Williamsville, also with independent senior apartments at both of those locations, and at 10 Lafayette inside the Hilton Garden Inn. Patrick Kaler, president of Visit Buffalo, says this disciplined strategy is helping to strengthen the region's lodging inventory while positioning the company to compete on a national level. And Patrick adds, under Dan Hamister's leadership, Hamister Group's hotels division has been very deliberate about how and where it expands. They prioritize with local properties and reputable brands and markets that match long-term demand rather than following fleeting trends. Close quote. The company's roots date back to 1977 when Mark Hamister formed National Healthcare Affiliates, which grew into one of the nation's 20 largest long-term care and subacute providers. He sold the major holdings of the company in 1996 and then bought a home health care agency in St. Lawrence County. The group officially entered the Western New York hospitality industry in 2012 after buying the Tishman building downtown, where it developed a mixed-use property anchored by a Hilton Garden Inn, market-rate apartments, and Hamister Group's corporate offices. It seemed like a natural progression. The company has been mimicking industry leaders like Disney, Hilton, and Marriott since the 1980s. at its senior living facilities when it came to decor and amenities. And Dan adds, healthcare at the time was clean, sterile, and antiseptic. They started changing things to be more welcoming, and it helped push their numbers up even further. And we've taken the approach ever since. It was all about the five senses at the end of the day. Well, isn't that something? So, the Hotels and Hospitality, all articles, were written by Tracy Drury. And you know what? As if you didn't know, this isn't a mystery. You're listening to a reading of articles and features from Buffalo Business First on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Okay, now the next page is page 7, and we have our old friend Jacob Tierney has authored this, and these are 2 articles on commercial real estate. And the first one is a quote. Dare I say a mystery quote? Here it is, folks. This is long-term, multi-billion-dollar investment. This isn't something that is built and kind of goes away within 5 or 10 years. Wow. Okay, here's the quote again. This is a long-term, multi-billion-dollar investment. This isn't something that's built and kind of goes away within 5 or 10 years. Wow, what's he talking about? Well, the quote is from Bradley Wells, Site Selection Development Manager for Stream, on the company's multi-billion data center project at the Stamp site in Alabama. Okay, so what he's saying again, this is a long-term, multi-billion-dollar investment. This isn't something that is built and kind of goes away within 5 or 10 years. Okay, now, the next full article, Commercial Real Estate, Jacob Tierney. And there's a picture of the current newly sworn-in Mayor, Buffalo Mayor Sean Ryan. And the headline says, Mayor outlines new strategy for economic development. And the subheading is, City restructuring aims to streamline the permitting process. So it says here in Jacob Tierney's article, Buffalo Mayor Sean Ryan recently talked to a developer who asked the mayor's help to get a project through the city's permitting process without any unnecessary delays. And here's a quote from Ryan. I said, I will definitely help you with that, but you should know that if you're sitting here a year from now asking for this on your next project, that means we're failing as a government. Nobody should have to come see the mayor about getting a project done in the city of Buffalo. Close quote. The Ryan administration is in the midst of making a series of leadership and process changes that the mayor said will make it quicker and less confusing to get project approval. The goal is to create a system that anyone can understand and navigate. And here's another quote from Mayor Ryan. We just want to put regular programs and systems in place so people know what to expect. So it's not a mystery and you don't need any sort of special attention or massaging to get your project through. Close quote. According to Mayor Ryan, the city has long operated under a system that put economic development decisions into the hands of 100 few people, I'll read that again. According to Ryan, the city has long operated under a system that put economic development decisions into the hands of too few people, resulting in bottlenecks. Under Mayor Byron Brown's administration, Brendan McAfee, Executive Director at the Mayor's Office of Strategic Planning, spent more than 15 years as the city's top economic official. Mahaffey departed in late 2024 as part of a leadership shakeup under acting Mayor Chris Scanlon, and he was soon replaced by Nadine Mararo. Okay, Nadine Mararo is gone as well, as Ryan has eliminated the executive director position. He said the office had become a bottleneck, with processes routing through too few people. The leaders within the Department of Strategic Planning report to Deputy Mayor Thomas Baines, one of the 4 deputy mayors Ryan has appointed. The city previously had 1 deputy mayor, and Ryan says that is too much for one person to successfully manage, and that lack of management made it so commissioners operated under fiefdoms. Wow. Okay, close quote. He said the new system will result in more oversight and communication between the city's various departments. Crystal Middleton remains Director of Planning, a role she's held since 2021. Kate Lockhart is the new Senior Director of Strategic Initiatives, and Yvonne Bailey is Acting Director of Real Estate. The city will bring in outside consultants to help evaluate and streamline the processes. Money from the Better Buffalo Fund, donated by local businesses and nonprofits, will pay for the consultants. So there you go, commercial real estate, and in that regard, Mayor Ryan's attempts to streamline the process of getting permits. Okay, that's the end of page 7. Page 8 is, I'm sorry, I should give credit where due. Jacob Tierney did both of those articles. And again, under the heading Commercial Real Estate. Now we go to page 8, Manufacturing and Innovation, and this is a 3-item page, all written by Katie Anderson. And you know what? I'm going to start with another mystery quote. Okay, here's the part of the mystery already. Wow. Okay, this quote starts with a person's name. Scott asked if I would work with his sales team. So I started working with them and kind of fell in love with the atmosphere that I had walked away from. I couldn't say no to coming home. Wow. Okay, and I can tell you just by looking at the other 2 articles, we don't know who Scott is. But we do know this quote is from Dan Ingersoll, the new Director of Business Development at SafeTech of America. And Dan Ingersoll said again, the new Director of Business Development at SafeTech said, Scott asked me if I would work with his sales team. So I started working with them and kind of fell in love with the atmosphere that I had walked away from. I couldn't say no to coming home. Good for you, sir. Okay. So that's the mystery quote. Now we have the second article. Amherst. New owner takes over Sonic Blinds. After 30 years, the owner of a window treatments company has retired and passed the baton to a longtime employee. Sonic Blinds, which manufactures and installs commercial and residential window treatments, was founded in 1988. The company, which has 14 employees and a showroom on Niagara Falls Boulevard in Amherst, is the only one in the area that manufactures its own blinds. After 30 years, he decided to sell the business to Steve Bacon, who had been an employee for 8 years and was the commercial project manager. Okay. The sale of Sonic Blinds, which does about $2.5 million in annual sales, was official as of October 1st. Lynn still owns the plaza at 2890 Niagara Falls Boulevard and rents the 12,000 square foot facility to the company. Wow, okay. And finally, the largest of the 3, North Tonawanda. Taylor Devices invests $2 million in facility expansion. And here's a picture of Taylor Devices CEO Tim Sopko at the company's North Tonawanda facility. And Tim's in kind of business casual look here with a very satisfied look on his face. But of course, he's got those safety glasses on, and he should. Okay, 5,000 square foot lab will allow new products to be tested and validated. Taylor Devices has expanded its research and development capabilities by creating a development lab out of existing space. CEO Tim Sobko said the new lab will be dedicated to testing and validation of new products with functional mock-ups and prototypes. And he says, we're doing this on a smaller scale to quickly prototype, validate, and solve our customers' problems, he said. The $2 million project took Taylor Devices about 7 months and about 5,000 square feet of its existing facility at 1 Buffalo Bolt Way in North Tonawanda. Taylor Devices has 2 facilities in that location, including a 45,000 square foot machine shop. The rest of the company's footprint is on Tonawanda Island, with a 30,000 square foot facility for headquarters and manufacturing and testing. Taylor Devices has about 130 employees. 7 will be dedicated to the new lab, which has been named the Alan Klemzik Development Lab after the longtime company president who retired in 2025. The company's fiscal 2025, which ended May 31st, resulted in a 4% revenue growth to $46 million. Sobko said he anticipates the development lab will continue the growth trajectory in the second half of fiscal 2026. In a December 31st financial report filed with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, the company reported a 7% increase in revenue in the first half of fiscal 2026, compared with the same period in fiscal 2025. This year marks the 70th anniversary of Taylor Devices, which makes shock absorption systems and vibration damper equipment for aerospace and defense structuring and industrial industries. It also produces equipment, fluid viscous dampers, that goes into buildings and bridges to prevent damage from earthquakes, high winds, or other storms, underwater shock absorbing equipment for ships and submarines, and vibration isolation systems for spaceflight and launches. In the last year, Sobko said, the structural side of the business has slowed due to the overall economy and higher interest rates on building and development. However, aerospace and defense has increased. And here's a quote from Tim Sobko, the CEO. We've diversified as a business where at one point we were about 60% structural and industrial, but now we're closer to 70% space and defense. But those structural projects are starting to happen again, and we're hoping to see more industrial and structural work over the next year. So Tim Sobko also said the defense customers, which make up the majority of business right now, typically, now this is a quote, want high velocity and accelerated development faster than ever and inexpensively, close quote. That's another reason for opening the new lab and investing in more research and development, he said. And here's another quote from Tim. The ever-increasing need for our elegantly engineered solutions that solve our customers' problems is on the rise. That's the demand signal that's coming to us more so than ever. We've been able to proactively set ourselves up to meet these demands by investing in our factories and, of course, in our people. The company is also open to making its first significant acquisition. And here's another quote and final quote from Tim. We're in a really good fiscal position with a $40 million in cash in the bank, and we have no debt. So our goal is to sustain and drive the profitable growth of the company. Well, Taylor Devices invests $2 million in facility expansion. That's in North Tonawanda, and that was the third of these articles written by Katie Anderson. And that concludes page 8. Page 9 is a full-page ad. So now we're going to have time to get to, I got to tell you, folks, it's my favorite feature, The List by Hassan Green. And this week it's CPA firms ranked by the total number of local CPA accountants. You know, before I get to the particulars of the list, I just want you to remember, you're listening to a reading of articles and feature from Buffalo Business First right here on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. So, again, compiled by Hassan Green. I'm just double checking to see if the caveat's still down there, and yes, it is. Information on the list was obtained through Buffalo Business First research or supplied by individual firms through questionnaires that Buffalo Business First could not independently verify. Okay, so we're going to hear the top 25 CPA firms, and let's get right to it. Now, they're ranked by total number of local CPA accountants. In first place, we have number 1 is Withum, W-I-T-H-U-M. They're on Main Street in the city. They have 139 local CPA accountants. Local accountants not CPAs, 177. The local full-time employees, 270. The total employees company-wide, 3,015, and the managing partner is Richard Wright Jr. Second place, CTBK, and they're in Bryant Woods and Amherst. They have 82 local CPA accountants. They have 62 local accountants non-CPA. Local full-time employees, 175. That's the total numbers of employees company-wide. And Jean Pilish and Zachary Wagner are the managing partner. Okay. Number 3, we have Lumsden and McCormick on Franklin Street in Buffalo, downtown. They have 75 local CPA accountants. They have 92 local accountants, non-CPAs, 159 local employees, and 169 total in the company. And Sarah Dayton is the managing partner. Fourth place, we have Tronconi, Segarra, and Associates. They're on Main in Williamsville. They have 72 local CPA accountants, 65 local accountants, non-CPAs, total 145 local full-time employees. That's company-wide, the number of people they employ. And James Segarra is the managing partner. In fifth place, we have Dobkins and Company on International Drive in Williamsville. They have 70 local CPA accountants, 48 accountants non-CPA, total of 126 local full-time employees, and that's also the number of employees company-wide. And Thomas Emmerling is the managing partner. Next, we have the Bonadio Group on Corporate Parkway in Amherst. They have 65 CPAs, 74 local accountants non-CPAs, total of 169 local full-time employees, and company-wide they employ 1,128. Denise Neiman is their managing partner. Number 7, we have PricewaterhouseCoopers LLP on Exchange Street in Buffalo. They have 62 CPAs, 20 accountants non-CPA, a total of 95 full-time employees locally, and this is impressive, total employees nationwide, 364,000. Keith Delote is the managing partner. In 8th place, we have Brock, Schechter, and Polikoff, Exchange Street in Buffalo. They have 11 CPAs, 13 accountants, non-CPAs, total full-timers of 55, and company-wide 55. Raymond Crane is the managing partner. Next, we have EFPR Group, CPAs, PLLC, on Main in Williamsville. They have 30 CPAs, 24 accountants, non-CPA, 63 full-time employees, and a total of 200 company-wide. Douglas Zimmerman is the managing partner. 10th place, we have the ZLC Group, CPAs LLC. They're on Sweet Home in Amherst. They have 26 CPAs. They have 41 accountants, non-CPAs. Total of 76 full-time employees, and that's the company-wide total of employed is 76. And Edward Lavery is their managing partner. 11th place, we have Ernst & Young. Seneca Street, downtown, 24 CPAs. They don't have any accountants who aren't CPAs. They do have 79 full-time employees. And company-wide, they employ 414,267. Mark Izzo is their managing accountant. 12th place, we have Deloitte LLP and subsidiaries on Sheridan and Williamsville. They have 24 CPAs, 40 non-CPA accountants, total of 75 full-time employees. Company-wide, 181,587. James Brennan is their managing partner. Next, we have in 13th place KPMG, Seneca Street in Buffalo, 18 CPAs. They don't have any accounts, not CPA. Total of 32 employees full-time. And company-wide, 275,000. Jay Gree is their managing partner. Okay, 14th place, Cohen and Company on Main and Williamsville. They have 14 CPAs, 8 other types of accountants, 28 full-time employees, 816 company-wide. And Michael Stimenkowiak is their managing partner. Dreacher and Malecki LLP are on Transit in Elma. They have 13 CPAs, 21 accountants non-CPA, total of 34 full-time employees, and 36 company-wide. Luke Malecki is their managing partner. Next, we have Arcara, Lenda, Usanio, and Stacy CPAs on Main and Williamsville. They have 13 CPAs, 11 accountants not CPA, 28 full-time employees, 32 company-wide. David Arcara, Paul Usanio, and Christopher Stacy are the top managing partners. 17th place, we have LVBW on Bryant Woods in Amherst. 10 CPAs, 4 other accountants, total of 26 full-timers and 29 in the entire company. Jay Kincaid is their managing partner. 18 is Phillips and Brooks CPAs on Riley and East Aurora. They have 7 CPAs, 5 accountants not CPAs, 12 full-time employees, and a total of 16 in the company. Richard Brooks is their managing partner. 19th place, CBFR Partners. They're on Sweet Home in Amherst. They have 7 CPAs, 5 accountants, not CPAs. Total of 14, and 14 company-wide is their number of people that are in the company. They have a managing committee. 20th place, GHJ on Ellicott downtown. 6 CPAs, 3 other accountants, total of 9 full-time employees, company-wide 270, and Tom Berry is their managing partner. Now here's from 21 to 25 to round out the top 25. 21 is Allied CPA on John James Audubon, in Amherst. They have local CPAs, 5, local accountants, 10, local full-timers, 15, total company-wide, 70. Thomas Tate is their managing partner. 22nd place is Kirsitz and Associates on Delaware in Buffalo. 5 CPAs, 9 other accountants, 14 local full-time employees, and 14 company-wide employees. Lisa Kirsitz is the managing partner. 23rd, Accounting Group of Western New York. CPA, Seneca Street in Elma. 5 CPAs, 5 other accountants, not CPAs, total of 12 in full-time employment, and that's company-wide, 12 number of employees. Scott Foodie and Terry Keller are the managing partners. 23rd was a tie. We also have Mercer and Company, Center Road in Buffalo, Seneca actually. They have 5 local CPA accountants. They have 4 local accountants, not CPAs, a total of 12 full-timers and 12 in the company. Kenneth Frank is the managing partner. And number 25, Bronsky and Company CPAs, and they too are on John James Audubon in Amherst. They have 5 local accountants. They have 5 other accountants, not CPAs. They have local employees, full-time, 11. Total company-wide, 11. Kathy Becker, Samuel Bronsky, and David Hanley are the managing partners. Now, one interesting thing about this, we just heard the top 25 CPA firms. If you want to go beyond the list, The list comprised a total of 55 in the Buffalo Business First expanded ranking. So you have to go to www.bizjournals.com. I'm sure that should be www.bizjournals.com/Buffalo/data center/lists. So you could get the other, let's see now, let's do the math here, the other 30. So Hassan had his work cut out for him in this one. And again, just to read that again, if you want to see or hear all 55, you've just heard 25, there are 30 more under www.bizjournals.com/Buffalo /data center /lists. All compiled by Hassan Green in the lists. You know, I did mention here, this is all the time I'm going to have to read for you today. But just so you know, if ever we do finish an article or don't finish the article and you need to have it read to you, you can contact us. And we are at 716-821-5555. And one of the staff members will read the rest of it for you. And we're coming to the close of my reading. So I just wanted to remind you once again, you've been listening to a reading of articles and features from the February 13th through 19th issue of Buffalo Business First. And you know, folks, we read from Buffalo Business First every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Your reader has been Fran McNamara, and I really sincerely thank you for listening.
Coming up next in the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, we have Time Magazine. At 8 o'clock, we have the New York Times. And following that, at 9 o'clock, we have Discover Magazine. Stay with us for these readings and more throughout the day. Thank you for listening. following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision,